Hello, my friends and future funeral directors. This is Megan for Megan Opachensky's Study Guide to the NBE. Sorry. I am trying to hurry this up. This episode is actually not going to be hosted by me. I'm only doing the introduction and the final part to say goodbye. This episode is going to focus on infant embalming. I know that those of you who have already taken your sciences will understand why I'm doing not just a second episode on this, but an episode that's actually being done by Professor Cain herself. You understand the importance of infant embalming when it comes to your science MBE. Those of you who haven't taken it, just listen to what I just said and take that as a major hint, like I like to do. It's nice to be back. I just wanted to apologize. I actually recorded this, sorry, a couple of weeks ago. Professor Cain was amazing and provided this literally weeks ago, and I should have done it then. But as y'all know, especially my last few episodes, I was really struggling. I've been going through some health issues, and then literally last Tuesday, 10/15, I had a pretty big surgery, and here I am 7 days out, and this is the happiest I've been. I can finally have teas. I can't tell you how shot my voice was, especially with like RA. I'll still have the sniffles. I'm going to return to doing some episodes as soon as possible. Just have to make sure that I'm truly ready, because as I'm talking, I can feel it. I don't want to get into too much personal stuff because that is not why you're here. I know there has been a lot of people trying to get a hold of me. I just ask, please give me a little bit of leeway. That's why I have been mostly unreachable. I just wanted to apologize. I know that my thing is I'm always here. This was unforeseen. It happened very quickly. It started with a really traumatic stalking thing, and it was impressive. And then it led to a car accident that was caused by that. And then here we are with surgery. So I'm on the other side, and of course that illness. So anyway, I'm on the other side of everything. It has been one heck of an October, and please accept my apology. I know most of you are phenomenal and you are very understanding, but trust me, I know I've been slacking. Like I said, as far as the Taggart notes or whatever you need me for, if you message me through fan mail, please, please, please give me your email or however you want me to send it to you. I'm not sure if Buzzsprout is giving y'all my phone number. Please, I ask that please don't call me. I've been getting a couple of calls at very odd times, and I don't answer my phone if it's a number I don't know. It's nothing personal. It is not the way to get a hold of me, because I am one of those people plagued by 2024 nonstop spam calls, especially after insurance shopping. Everybody wants a car warranty, or I don't know, extension. I don't know. So anyway, again, if you want to get a hold of me, like I said, you can absolutely use fan mail. Give me your email address and I can email you, because like I said, it doesn't show me. I know I've said this in other episodes. It will not show me who the heck you are, not even your full name. And it will not give me your full phone number. So I can only see the message that you send. The absolute best way to get a hold of me. Now, I'm trying to hurry this up because this is not my episode. I'm just trying to give y'all a way to get a hold of me, because that's been an issue. I've been trying desperately to make a Facebook fan page for this show, but Facebook keeps flagging it, saying that I'm impersonating somebody, and I'm literally just doing my podcast as a page, and I'm like, I'm not impersonating myself. And then they lifted the restriction, and it got restricted again. So anyway, it's the best way to get a hold of me is still going to be finding me on Facebook. I am verified. It's Megan Opachensky. The last name is O-P-O, C as in cat, E-N SKY. And truly, like, if I don't see, you might go to spam. So my whole thing's public. You can comment on any post and say, hey, just wanted to let you know I messaged you. And then I can click on your name and hit message. And even if it got super filtered, I'll see it. So I just wanted to put that all in there and give you guys an update and let y'all know what's going on. I'm sorry I'm speaking 1,000 miles a minute. Like I said, trying to fit all of this in before her episode so y'all know the update. In fact, I intend to re-record this later and delete this so that y'all don't have to hear this all the time. I just want this to go out with my first episode back. Okay. All right. Calm. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Professor Cain and her amazing gesture of recording this. So y'all have this. This is absolutely vital for your science NVE. Now, you may, I don't know how in depth I can get. It's been that long since I've recorded these. Oh my goodness. I think I could say this. Okay. I do not know how many questions you're going to get that revolves around this topic, but whatever you pray to help you, if you do not take my warning and you get that lucky lotto where they obsess over it, because you could. Trust me on that one. So heed my warning. It's not a lot. It's mostly common sense. So first and foremost, like my last episode, I kind of tried to say, don't overthink it. Use common sense. Like if you've embalmed, how would you expect to embalm an infant, you know? If that makes sense. It's like, also, before we start, I have had a lot of people asking about obesity cases. Now, again, that comes if you've taken your NBE. If you haven't, that's not going to mean anything to you. The obesity cases, I also asked Professor Cain about that. We both kind of had like, how do we make an episode out? And I asked her because I'm like, I don't know how to do an episode on that topic. So I've personally, as a trade embalmer, done many. I think my biggest was over 600 pounds. We both concurred that they're mostly just tricking you by adding obesity. You want to keep that head straight and look at it like you are embalming a regular case, okay? That was her advice, and that's also my advice. Because from my experience, I actually even looked in the textbook, and they don't even go into it. So, and that is important. It's not like a huge thing, but again, I'm sure there's a lottery where you could get one that hits on that a lot. So don't let them trick you. It is going to be exactly like what you would think for a normal case. The key, according to her, and I agree, keep their head straight. Now, I believe that it's important to also remember about like keeping their hands up. Think about what you do with a person's hands that doesn't stay up. As a trade embalmer, we do a lot of transport long distances. We will actually, and again, you might know what I'm referring to. I can't say it otherwise. I'm just trying to give you guys help without breaking any rules. So if you have a case where the hands will not stay up, which an obese case, that happens quite a bit, it is a thing to tie their hands in place. Now, I'm not talking like twist ties or string or something. Like, don't think that. We typically use, like my boss and I, we use hand towels or saran wrap, things like that, which is quote unquote tying the hands together. Basically, you are keeping those hands, you know how you cup them for when you embalm them and have them fixed for casket view? That's what we're talking about. So we fix them to that point. And if you have an obese case, their arms are going to drive you crazy and they're going to keep flopping off, right? So just think of it that way. Like, what would you do in a normal situation where the hands still want to stay? And for those of you who have not been in the prep room and have not gotten there yet, also keep that in mind because that is what we do. Everybody, I think most funeral homes kind of have their own way of doing it. I mean, for us, it's like whatever's available. So anyway, that was also important. Wanted to touch base on that before we got into this because, again, these two topics, infant embalming and obesity cases, are like really high demand. So, but obesity, I really can't do an episode on it. There's just not enough. And if anybody has a different opinion and you guys have like, if y'all have like anything, like a Kahoot or a Quizlet to throw at me, I am open and I will freaking do it. But as far as I know, I went in the textbooks. Her and I, like I said, we racked our brains, and it just came off as one of those, like I tell you, they try to trick you. They put too much in, they try to add something that really doesn't change the answer. So, all right, gosh, I'm so happy to be back. This is the first time I've even done any recording. I have been in bed for like the past week, literally. So pardon me for my excitement. So anyway, keep reading the books that I have told you to read. They will help you immensely. I know that my science sucks because I have not been able to finish it. If there is a topic that I have, because it's been a while, honestly. If there's something that you guys feel is more important, you can fan mail me, and like, I look at that. So if somebody were to say, hey, oh my gosh, if you could do like, I need to do facial profiles, I know. But if you could do this first, if y'all do that, I do pay attention to it. And I will abso-freaking-lutely prioritize. If people tell me something is more important. And don't get offended if I don't. If I don't, I'll do an opening and go, hey guys, I saw a lot of these suggested. You don't really need to worry about that. So if I don't cover it like in a full episode, just take that as you can chill. You don't have to worry about it. You'll be all right. For sciences, just take a deep breath. I know it's a lot. It's really overwhelming. And remember that my policy with this is I'm not trying to get you like a 99, okay? I'm trying to get you that 75. I'm gonna be honest. Like, stop stressing getting them all. I want you to be comfortable and confident that you can get a 75, all right? And if you know your RA, like your color theory, all that, your embalming, your stitches, all that, oh God, the stitches. And infant embalming, for some reason, if you can have that stuff under your belt and sit down and go, yeah, heck yeah, I can write that in my sleep, which would be impressive, but you know what I mean? You guys got this. Like, I really believe that. And I apologize that I've stepped back, and I will absolutely dive back in. We got this. We're going to do it. You know? So, all right, truly, without further ado, I'm going to let this go over to Dr. Cain, and she did a wonderful job. I apologize for this being 13 freaking minutes of an intro, but like I said, it's been a month of nothing, and I needed to let y'all know what's going on. I will repost this in like a few weeks and delete this part and do a new intro so you don't have to keep listening to this. So anyway, wish y'all well, and I'll see you after we're done, all right?
Hello, everyone. If you have been listening, you might know me by now. My name is Darian Cain. I am a New York State licensed funeral director and embalmer, and I am an assistant professor for SUNY Canton, the State University of New York at Canton, in the Funeral Services Administration Department. I teach a variety of classes in that program, including Embalming 1 and Embalming 2. So in this short episode, I am just going to talk a little bit about infant embalming. And I want to preface this that this is not the complete extensive lecture that you should have received in your education, but this is just some helpful information to supplement the information that you should already know at this point. Okay, so when it comes to embalming, in general, everything comes back to our pre-embalming analysis. And our pre-embalming analysis is the process by which we determine the processes and techniques that we will utilize within the embalming itself. And so in the pre-embalming analysis, we are going to look at things such as cause and manner of death. We're going to look at what the person was wearing, what they're going to be wearing for their services. We look at moisture considerations, whether they're dehydrated, whether they have edema. We look at discolorations and different factors surrounding the decedent, both intrinsic within the body and extrinsic within the environment. All of these things are going to affect how we embalm, the chemicals that we use, the techniques we use, the vessels that we select, the types of embalming that we're going to use, right? So when it comes to infant embalming, we need to talk about the pre-embalming analysis for those cases. So when it comes to age, and age is a pre-embalming analysis consideration that we should think of. In each different age demographic, there are various factors that should stick out in our minds. Okay, so let's talk about standard cases. Standard cases being elderly people who die of natural causes, right? So if I think of a 90-year-old person, an 80-year-old person, what am I thinking? Okay, they might be a little bit dehydrated. Maybe they've been in a nursing home. Maybe they've been on hospice, probably not eating or drinking as much as, say, a 30-year-old would, a 20-year-old would be. Okay, so a little bit dehydrated, maybe a little bit emaciated. When we think about their vessels, well, a lot of elderly people, there's higher risks of having cardiovascular disturbances such as plaque, or vessels that are not as elastic, or vessels that maybe have clots in them. So circulatory issues are going to be pretty prevalent in that age demographic. And also we have a lot of people dying from natural causes. Cancer, diabetes, old age, pneumonia, respiratory problems, right? So a lot of times we're dealing with more natural types of deaths. Now, if we step back to, 50s, 60s, okay, again, lots of circulatory issues that we see in this demographic. We also are going to see a lot of natural deaths, but we're also going to see more suicide deaths, more homicide deaths, more accidental deaths in this demographic, and that's drastically going to change the embalming procedure as well. Step it back earlier, 20s, 30s, 40s. Okay, yes, we're going to have natural deaths, but we're going to have more accidental, suicide, homicide types of deaths in this demographic. We also are going to have usually more muscle tissue in this demographic. We're going to have maybe higher rates of toxins being present, like alcohol or whatnot, in this demographic. Okay, so let's step back to infants and children. Infants and children. Yes, there are going to be natural deaths. We're always going to have natural deaths, right? Maybe some anomaly that was present at birth or was unknown when the baby was born. Okay, or maybe depending on the gestational age, maybe this is a miscarriage type of death, a stillbirth type of death due to some genetic factor or some unknown factor, because these things can happen without a true cause, right? So we want to think about that when we talk about pre-embalming analysis. Natural deaths will occur, but also in this demographic, we're going to have a lot more accidental types of deaths, and unfortunately, a lot more homicidal types of death. Sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, asphyxiation, unfortunately, shaken baby. So those are the types of deaths that we see a lot of times in this age group. Okay, so when I have an infant death, I want to think about that. Okay, I want to think that there may be, depending on the case, some external factors that contributed to this death. So maybe unsafe sleep, maybe an accident such as a car accident. Okay, so I'm going to think about that when it comes to embalming. I also am going to think, if it is an accidental homicidal type of death, there's going to be an autopsy, right? And even if it was a natural type of death, The family may have elected for an autopsy or tissue sampling to occur so that they can try to see if there was a genetic factor to this type of death. And so I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. There's a high risk of an autopsy or tissue sampling that would have taken place. And that's going to affect the embalming process as well, right? Because then I'm going to have to bring in how I handle autopsy cases. I'm going to have to deal with the incisions. I'm going to have to deal with the viscera. So when it comes to embalming for infants and children, there's a lot of different aspects of embalming that I'm going to need to bring in. So embalming infants is really going to test how well you know all of the embalming material. You need to know everything in your textbook to be able to do these specialized cases, right? So when I think about infants, and I'm doing my pre-embalming analysis, there's a couple other things I'm going to think about. One is going to be moisture content. So up until the age of 1, the body composition of an infant is going to be mostly water. And so babies will be about 75% water when it comes to body composition up until they are about age 1. And by age 1, they even out to the 60% that we see in normal adults. So in the embalming process, I'm going to need to compensate for all of that extra water. And because of this extra water, in infant cases, the brain is the first area that will decompose. And so I might need to do cranial embalming when it comes to the cavity portion of the embalming process. And I might need to go through that cribiform plate through the nose to get into the cranial cavity to aspirate out some of that fluid if I'm concerned about decomposition. Now, cranial embalming, that is, there are pros and cons, right? Pros and cons. So the pro would be I can mitigate decomposition, I can treat the brain tissue, and I can get cavity fluid up there to hopefully prolong the ability for the family to see the infant. But the con is going to be opening up an area where leakage can occur. And so I'm going to have to ensure that I fully plug that area, whether it's with cotton or some sort of plug type material or putty. That way I'm not having leakage occur. Because what else do we know about infant cases? Well, a lot of times families are going to want to hold the child. Families are going to want to hold the child. So I need to embalm in a way that is going to give families that ability to hold and cuddle their child. Okay, I will never say no to a family who wants to hold their infant. And so I'm going to do everything in my power to embalm in a way that that is possible. And that is going to include ensuring that all incisions are covered with glues and cotton and suturing, and then with probably 1 or 2 layers of clothing. So maybe 1 or 2 onesies underneath the actual outfit. That way, if there is any leakage, it's hidden and it doesn't bleed through onto the clothing. When it comes to the cranial cavity, if there has been an autopsy, we are going to want to ensure that weight is added back into that cranial cavity. Whether you add cotton, whether you add a little bit of sand in a Ziploc bag inside of that area, you want to simulate weight. That way, when they hold the child, everything feels normal. Everything feels normal. I would also recommend that you have a little hat on the baby as well to cover any incisions. Maybe ask the family to bring in a hat that they would like to go with the baby. That way you don't have to take it back off. You don't have to worry about staining or leakage. Infant skin is very delicate. Okay, so we want to make sure that, yes, we are compensating for the excess moisture in the body, but that we are also leaving enough moisture that the tissues are pliable and easy to cosmetize over. Now, cosmetics should be very, very, very minimal and light on an infant case because babies don't normally wear makeup, right? So we want everything to look normal to that child. And so we want very thin layers, very light applications. So I want to try to do as much restoration with my actual embalming chemicals and process as I can to minimize the amount of cosmetics that are needed after the fact. And so within my embalming solution, I'm going to ensure that I have some sort of humectant to keep the tissues pliable. I'm going to want to make sure I'm using dyes. That way I can add that natural color back to the decedent. And I'm going to want to make sure that I use strong enough chemicals that everything is going to be preserved long enough to be able to have the services and to allow the family to hold them. Now, their features are also very, very small, so I'm going to probably need to cut down my eye caps to fit. I might have to cut my needle injectors if I use them, but I really don't even suggest using a needle injector for infant cases. Babies' lips are not always going to come together like an adult's lips do. They kind of come together in a pucker shape. And so one of the best things that you can do to close the mouth for a baby is to just apply petroleum jelly or like K-lip type of substance to the weather line of the lips, and then you bring them together, and that's going to help to stick the lips, but it's going to give that pucker appearance as well. Again, we want them to look normal to themselves, so we don't want the lips to have that straight line that we see a lot of times in our adult cases. Usually for these cases, we're going to need to do a lot of surface embalming or hypodermic embalming, right? So we want to take that into consideration when we talk about our procedures and processes. So there's a couple of different ways that we can embalm, okay? A couple different ways that we can embalm. So we can embalm using our 6 common injection sites. And out of the 6 common injection sites, you will probably go for either the carotid or for the femoral. So the axillary is going to be very, very small. That's going to be pretty tricky to find and utilize in these cases, especially if there's a lot of rolls in the arm and armpit area, if it's a little bit chunkier of a baby. So it could be difficult to find those. Also with the carotid, you run into the same thing. If there's rolls in the neck, we might have issues being able to find and raise that vessel. So probably I would try to go for the femoral, honestly, and that's so I could try to hide that area a little bit with clothing. I have a little bit more wiggle room around rolls. Yes, babies' legs have rolls, but I'm able to kind of cover that area a little bit more with long onesies as opposed to the neck where families are going to be touching and kissing. So personally, I would probably go for a femoral. Now, there are 2 other accepted practices for infant cases. One is to use the abdominal aorta. So this would be beneficial if you've had like an autopsy, but it is accepted for you to make an incision to go into the aorta for these types of cases. That way you can get great distribution, but you also are in an area that's easy to hide and cover with clothing and sutures. And so to access the aorta, there's 2 different ways you can do it. One, a U-shaped incision can be made from clavicle down, so your collarbone, from your clavicle down to the bottom of the rib cage across your inferior being bottom, border of the sternum up to the other clavicle. So basically from sternoclavicular articulation down around the sternum up to the other sternoclavicular articulation. Okay, and you can feel that. So your sternoclavicular articulation is at the base of your neck. It's that bump where your breastbone meets your collarbone. So essentially, if you took a pen and you made a U shape from your sternoclavicular articulation down around your sternum and back up, that's the incision that you could make to access the abdominal aorta. Creates a flap, essentially. You would want to make sure that you hypodermically and surfacely treat that flap. And then you would be able to go in there and use that abdominal aorta. The other way that you can access it is to make a 2 to 3 inch incision in the middle of the abdomen to the left of the midline. And just be aware that you might have to move some of the intestines because everything's kind of squished up in these little bodies at this point. Vessels are going to be smaller than we're used to seeing. So you want to be really, really careful when you're doing this type of embalming. And then the other technique that you can use is embalming via immersion. Immersion being you are going to essentially soak the baby. And soaking them is going to allow their skin and tissues to absorb the formaldehyde, absorb the chemicals. Diffusion is going to happen. And basically, you're hypodermically and surfacely treating the body, but in a very strong, concentrated form. Okay, so when you do this, you would fill a vat or a tub with enough water to cover the infant. So we don't want to completely dehydrate them. So we do need to ensure we have plenty of water. So you're going to fill it with water first. Then you would add your arterial fluid of choice. And again, you would use the concentration math that you should know, C1V1 equals C2V2. You could do the whole formula to figure out how much fluid you would need to get the desired strength that you're trying to achieve. Okay, I'm not going to go through all that math. You should know that. Make sure you know that math. That's key because if you ever are brought to court, they're going to say, well, how did you know that your embalming was sufficient for that case? They're going to want to see the math that you did to create your solution. So you should always be doing this math no matter what embalming you're doing. So once I have that vat that's filled with water, I do the math, I add my arterial fluid, then I'm going to wrap the infant in a cloth, cotton, or a blanket, and that's going to create a little barrier for the skin, so it kind of minimizes the harshness a little bit. And I'm going to submerge them for about 8 hours, and I'm going to want to rotate them periodically. That way I have even distribution. I wouldn't just leave them for 8 hours. You should be checking on them every, hour or so. That way you can see, are they starting to have searing or burning of the tissues from the fluid? Are they getting firmer? Are they getting a little bit dry? Are you seeing color changes? And you should be monitoring this process. And then at that point, when the immersion is done, then you would go for cosmetics. Okay, so this is just a little bit of information to help you out with embalming the infants. Again, this should be in addition to what you learn in your schooling. You can look in the embalming textbook if you're using G. Maricello's book or Mayer's books. This would be chapter 16. That's embalming the infants. I highly recommend that you read those chapters. They're going to give a lot of in-depth information as well. All right, and that's me, your favorite mortuary science professor.
All right, guys. I'm going to keep this short. I've already wasted 13 minutes of your life at the beginning. I don't need to say anything extra. However, just wanted to thank you all for being understanding, patient, supportive, for following my podcast or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this to. I know I pay a host service, so however you are obtaining this, I'm glad you found me. If you have an exam coming up, I want you to take a nice deep breath and I want you to get the conference out of your freaking head. That I stand by this. I swear to you, a big part of how they operate is they want you, it's fear tactic. It's how can you handle this under pressure, And a lot of, I don't know how much I've talked about this, but I actually went to medical school. I took my MCATs and it's the same thing. Any board you take, I swear that is a huge drive. And I understand the psychology behind it. Like they want you to be able to think under pressure, under stress, and it kind of in a way proves to them that you know the content. Do I agree with it? Absolutely freaking not. I think it's unfair because they trick you. If it was just the stress, no problem. But I'm not, the MCATs don't trick you. The NBE does. It's beyond me. So just remember, if you read a question and it doesn't make sense, read like, I've heard a really good suggestion from somebody that is a terrible test taker like I am. They actually read the answers first and then go to the question. And I actually started doing that myself, looking at the dead questions, and it actually helped. I suck as a test taker. I'm going to be totally honest. I failed both of mine by 1 point. I have no shame in telling you that. That's why I'm always like, guys, don't worry about it. It is not the end of the world. The sky is not falling. They just want you to feel like that. But I gotta tell you, like, just get it out of your head. Don't worry about it. Sit there, and I want you to be confident. I want you to be comfortable, and I want you to be just like in the moment, right? I know it's a lot, but I've been there. It's not like a tutor is sitting here going, oh yeah, no, I've literally been in your shoes, okay? So I'm saying that from a place of understanding and support. Now, I'm also going to put out there, I am considering, okay, putting together a small study group for arts, a small study group for sciences, for people who have it doesn't matter how many freaking times you've taken it, or maybe you didn't take it at all, but I think it would be more beneficial to the people who have taken it, because we are able to kind of talk about it in a different way and kind of know what we mean, because we cannot talk about the test, obviously, but there's like a certain understanding, and those of you who have taken it, you totally know what I mean. And I'm not trying to gatekeep. It's one of those, once you take it, if you know, you know. And I hate saying that, but you'll know the format, you know what they do, it'll all click. It's like, after that, you're like, really? That, and my podcasts make more sense. I almost say, like, if you take it once and you fail, my podcasts are gonna like sound so much, you will relate so much more to them. So don't stress it. And remember, like, if you don't pass that first time, we're going for 75. If you fail by 1, 2, 5 points, guys, come on, we got this. We can do it. We can make that work. You're almost there. You probably got some of those annoying questions that they ask like umpteen times in a different way, and you didn't know it the first time. That completely just messed it up. Been there, because that is exactly what happened to me. So anyway, don't stress it. I'm here for you. And now I can truly say I am coming back. I'm here. I can start drinking tea again so my voice doesn't die. I don't sound pathetic. I'm back. So, all right. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any interest in that study group, like I said, you can either contact me on Facebook, which is my preferred, or if you use that fan mail function, just don't forget to give me your email, please. So if I do a study group, if people show interest, I just want to be able to, wow, redundant. I am a mess. I want to be able to contact you guys and put it together. So I just think we could kind of help each other, But anyway, take a deep breath. Don't let these people get in your head. You know what you know. And I apologize that my sciences are not done. However, I do believe that if you have a sound understanding of the things that I made sure to post up RA, definite, you know what I mean? You know what's up. I made sure to do things in matter of importance on purpose. There's a reason. And even with arts, you can tell with my first episode, I prioritize. So you got important information available, okay? I'm not leaving you in the dark. Before I left, I'm like, I gotta do this. I gotta get through it. So I will be returning. I do have access to dead, so we will start doing those once I finish the stuff I need to do. We've got a lot to do, all right? So I'm here. I'm back. We're gonna do this. If you're interested in forming a study group or being a part of it, if I do, shoot me a message. I look forward to continuing this journey with you guys, all right? And don't be afraid to share this with your peers. I had somebody give this to everybody in their classroom, and they are all very happy about it. So, just, if you don't mind, I do not make anything off of this. I'm just trying to get enough ad revenue so that it pays for itself, because this is like $25 a month, which isn't a lot, but it's cool when the ads pay for most of it. Because you know me, I try to keep the content free for you guys. Also, yes, the dead discount, MEG 25, still works, still gets you $25 off either of David's books from Dead that you can buy from the Dead website under, I believe, materials. I haven't seen it. I don't remember. But it still works. As far as I'm concerned, that is a forever deal. So you could still order those. Sorry that I forgot to mention that sooner. I think I've covered everything. And here we are at 7 minutes. That's not too bad. All right, guys. So you have a wonderful morning, day, afternoon, night, whatever this is, weekend, whatever you got going on. You have a wonderful, whatever it is, get some sleep, take care of yourself. Don't stress. We've got this. No matter how many times it takes, we are going to do this, All right. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you and goodbye.